Hi there and welcome back to John Camera Photographic. Now if this looks familiar, well it kind of should do, because back in October I think it was, I did a video about the Z600 f4. Now when I did that, John contacted me and said he really liked it compared to this lens, which is the Nikon Z600 f6.3 PF-VRS. It was released back in October 2023, and I want to directly compare it to the other Z600 f4. So let's quickly go through the comparisons of them. This one cost currently £3,763. The f4 costs a good 15 grand. So that's slightly different. The minimum focus of this one is 4 meters or 13.1 feet, and the f4 is pretty much similar. And this one weighs 1,470, and the f4 weighs about 3,200 odd. So it's a lot heavier lens. They both use Fresnel lenses to keep the weight down, but the f4 is obviously a lot heavier, but it does have that onboard teleconverter. This one's a lot simpler. It hasn't got a lot to it. It's got the, if I can go this side without you losing me on the camera, it's got auto manual focus, full and restricted focus, and obviously it's got the lens function button, and on this side it's got memory set. It's got a lens function button here as well, all the way around as per usual, and that's it. It's a very simple lens to use, and I guess the question you're all asking is, well, can you use it for hand holding? Well, if I get rid of that, the answer is actually quite simple. If I eventually get it off this thing, let go. Yeah, very easily. It's incredibly light. It's very easy. It's very pointable, and although I've mainly used it on a gimbal, it's very, very easy to use handheld. And let's go inside and we'll have another look and we'll have a comparison. Okay, see you inside. God, it's chilly. Now, in the last video, I took the Z600 f4 to a cricket match. I also used it in a great reflection pond hide. And a few days ago, I took the Z600 6.3 back to that hide. But before we get to that, I'll do test one. Now, obviously, I can't find a cricket match in December, so what should I do? I know, kingfishers. Now, I know the similarities aren't obvious, but give me a chance. A kingfisher moves about as fast as a cricket ball, yeah? And you have to wait patiently for any action. During the video, I'm going to be looking for the answers to 4 questions. Is this lens and its f6.3 maximum aperture up to a winter shoot with its accompanying low light, or is it just a summer lens? What's the bokeh like compared to the Z600 f4 lens and the others? What's the focus speed like? Remember my Garden 3 tree test last time? I'll be repeating that. And finally 4, can I hand hold and shoot successfully? I suggest you keep watching the video for the answers. Meanwhile, I'm going to go and play with this. See you in a bit. Now, the thing about kingfishers is they're extremely shy birds. So although both my cameras are looking at this, most of the time my view is more like this. Actually, you can see a little bit more than that, but you get my point. That said, I'm never happier than when sat in a hide with a camera or two, waiting, watching or photographing wildlife. Any wildlife. So this was my home for the day and I loved every minute of it. Well, the obvious thing to point out is that it was raining and it was very windy. Actually, it was storm something or another. I don't know what they were calling it this time. Because the light was quite low, and before I could even think about the shutter speed I needed to capture any diving action from the bird, and I was restricted to a minimum of f6.3. So there was only one way to go, wasn't there? And that was ISO. So these are 8000. Not bad, are they? Now I'm flying through them because I don't want you to get bored. As if. Perish the thought. As usual in these videos, I'll compare this to a few other lenses. Obviously the 600 f4 from last time that I've already talked about, but also the 300 f2.8, this time with a 2x converter, and the Tamron SP2 150-600. So I'll be taking those with me. What can I say? Kingfishers, anyone? Okay, we're back again, this time with the Tamron and the ×2 teleconverted 300mm f2.8. Both again at 8000 ISO. Let's bring in the 600 f6.3, and so far they seem pretty similar in quality. We'll definitely take a closer look later. It got even darker as the afternoon went on, so I had no option but to up the ISO again. This time the camera fitted to the Z600 was set to 12,800 ISO. Now, do you think the noise is acceptable? You see, it's important to correctly expose at this ISO. I definitely couldn't afford to shoot at, say, a low exposure, as any adjustment later in processing would just create more noise. Now, sorry to interrupt, but I need to ask you all a question. Are my videos too long, or would you prefer the subject I'm testing to be in separate and shorter videos? Like, I don't know, intro and description, test 1 showing a use for it, test 2 showing a different use for it, and a 4th with my conclusions and experience with said item. So that would be four different short videos, or just the one big one. Please let me know your thoughts in the comment below. Anyway, sorry about that. Back to the video. Although I could get up to 1000 shutter speed with the ISO 12800, I still wasn't confident that it was really fast enough to capture the kingfisher diving. So I took the teleconverter off the 300mm and took these. They're cropped and I've edited the water a little to remove the tank. As a matter of interest, I found that the 3D focus area mode was the most successful to capture this speedy little bird when it dives. And talking about focus, I think it's time for a focus test. And for those of you who are new, this is how it works. From my position with the camera, I'm going to focus on 3 trees. Number 1 is the closest at 4.5 meters or 15 foot. Number 2 is to the right and is 10 meters or 33 foot away. The third tree is 50 meters or 165 foot away. I'll be following the same pattern and timing with all lenses, and I did this test about a month ago when it was still summer. Now, the last time I did this, it was back in August time. The sun was out, the leaves in the trees, everything was perfect. This time, we're in December, mid-December. A lot of the leaves have gone, most of the leaves have gone. But what can you do? It's not going to be a like for like, but we'll see how we get on. Okay, we'll do our best. Everything's on, set to record. Okay, listen to my repeat. Got there eventually. This is the Z600 f6.3, and not only is the focus smooth and quiet, it's pretty quick and accurate too. And considering that it uses a stepping motor compared to the 600 f4S, which uses the new silky swift VCM, which is voice call motor system, I think this 6.3 competes very well indeed. As you can see for yourself, as I introduce the Z600 f4 video footage from last time. I think it competes extremely well, actually. Originally I wasn't sure that it was fair to compare the two systems, but as I said, the f6.3 holds its own pretty well, doesn't it? Another run, and although my footage isn't that precise in the timing department, bad me, I think I've shown you enough for you to get the idea. They're pretty close, aren't they? I don't think one's faster or more accurate than the other. Well, I think I've done enough of it to come to a conclusion. I'm going to look at the video and get inside because it's really cold. And so to my second hide, and once again it was another damp, dark and windy December day with yet another storm something or another being forecast. When I came back here back in sunny August, I was using the Z600 f4, as I keep saying. But in Britain you can't plan your lens choice on the likelihood of a bright sunny day. So it was another good opportunity to test the f6.3 PF on a few subjects like you're looking at now. Once again, I was going to enjoy another great comparison test for the Z600 f6.3 in one of my favourite places. Oh, what could be better? I was pleased to note that the two f6.3 lenses, the Nikon and the Tamron, dealt with the background really well. The bokeh that they produce is soft and beautiful. Let's have a closer look at the two Z600mm. The detail of the J's feathers is so sharp. It's hard to choose between them. That's even more of a surprise when I tell you that this one was taken using 800 ISO and this one 10,000. Even more impressive, hey? The other two lenses, the Tamron and the Teleconverted 300, are both disappointingly soft in comparison, so let's quickly move on to the next set of images. I feel like I could actually reach out and feel the texture of this squirrel's fur. In fact, the quality of the squirrel images from both of the Z600s are once again almost identical. There may be a little bit more detail in the f4, but they're both sharp and crisp. Once again, there's a slight difference in ISO. The 600 f4 was 800 and the f6.3 8000. The other two lenses are sharper this time, but not quite as good as the Z600s. There's just not the same clarity as the Z lenses. The images from the Tamron and the Nikon 6.3 were taken using the same ISO of 8000, so the Tamron doesn't have that excuse, does it? The Teleconverted 300 seems so flat in comparison to the two Z600s. Back to small birds, it can be harder to get a sharp image of them as they're so twitchy. The quality of the image from the Z600 f4 is outstanding and the f6.3 is pretty good, and I was disappointed with the other two once again. The Tamron's slightly better, but neither images contain much in the way of detail, to be quite honest with you. This time it's the f6.3 that's stunning. The f4 is easily acceptable. In fact, it's more than just that. The 300 and the Tamron are okay. In fact, the 300 isn't bad at all. The detail in the woodpecker's feathers from the f4 is so sharp you could cut your finger on it. Amazing. The f6.3 isn't exactly shoddy in that department either. The 300's okay. The Tamron once again is disappointingly soft. But I tell you what, check out the bokeh from all four lenses. It's pretty gorgeous, isn't it? At this stage you might be asking, why am I bothering to compare the images that we're taking using such completely different ISOs? Well, that's kind of the point, isn't it? Although the difference between the f4 and the f6.3 isn't exactly huge, it's certainly enough to make a difference in this particular low light, and all low light. And that difference can also extend to the type of shots I can go for. So far, all I've shown you are portrait images, and that's because I couldn't increase the shutter enough to get the ones like these with my 300mm at f4. In case you're wondering why I'm not using a Z teleconverter with the F-mount 300, it's because the FDZ adapter doesn't fit. And once I'd taken the teleconverter off, I used f4 to capture all the action. The trouble is, that's all very well, but obviously then I'm lacking 300mm reach, basically half the 600mm lens that I originally wanted. So it's kind of give and take, isn't it? Anyway, unsurprisingly, the 14K f600mm f4 lens is absolutely stunning. But is it £9,000 better than the 6.3 version? Well, possibly if you're a professional sports or wildlife photographer, but do you really need that extra quality that most people won't even notice? I guess you have to ask yourself, what are you expecting to use your images for? Because for most situations, the Nikon Z600 f6.3 PF is easily sharp enough. Yes, you could argue that the f4 has a very effective teleconverter at f7 or f8, but I'm not sure I'd use it that much. It's a kind of nice to have rather than a reason for shelling out all that extra money for that particular lens. And if you're looking for a 600mm Z lens, the Z180 to 600 might be more versatile for you. I tested it back in July, so if you're tempted, don't forget to check that video out. Now, if you're worried about weight, especially after Christmas, then the Z600 f4 possibly isn't for you. It weighs in at 3,200 grams, roughly the same as 2 pineapples, 2 house bricks, or a newborn baby. Aww. The Z600 f6.3 on the other hand is only 1,470 grams, and for that you could get a basketball, 1 pineapple, or a small cat. Again, So to recap, the f6.3 is 1,470 grams. The f4 lens is 3,200 grams. And as a matter of interest, the Z180 to 600 is 1,995, though you are going to be stuck with that f6.3 at the top end again. And that's the big thing for me, the f6.3 versus f4 difference. And that rather usefully takes us to the original 4 questions that I posed at the beginning. Is this lens and its f6.3 maximum aperture up to a winter shoot with its low light, or is it just a summer lens? Well, the f6.3 certainly restricts the type of images that I could get in that low light. It was pretty much portrait only. I pushed the ISO to 12,800 as you saw at one point, but I could still only get a shutter speed of about 600. What's the bokeh like compared to the Z600 f4 lens? Well, I think you have to agree it's perfectly good. In fact, the depth of field is very small with all the big lenses. Whether f4 or f6.3, it doesn't seem to make a lot of difference. What is the focus speed like compared to the expensive Big Brother? Well, you saw the garden tree test. They're pretty similar, aren't they? I mean, I can't tell them apart, to be quite honest. And the final question was, can I hand, hold and shoot successfully? Oh yes, it's very hand holdable, the 6.3. And in fairness, the f4 isn't bad either, but it is quite a bit heavier. The 180 to 600 is obviously equally easy to handhold. So that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you liked it, then don't forget to like it. If you really liked it, then please subscribe. You know it makes me feel good inside. And secondly, please do make the comments below about the shorter and longer videos. very much appreciated. I do take in feedback from you. Okay, thanks a lot. Take care and see you next time.